can do
sure,
like free
sure.
free chat.
Sure. Yeah, Milan was the week before, so I was invited by Philip Plein to Milan,
Okay.
but it would have. I had clients.
My sister, I'm Italian.
Oh,
my
okay.
sister lives in Milan. My best
Right.
friend lives in Milan. All my friends live out there.
Right.
I always wanted to go to Fashion Week there. Just never had the chance.
Yeah. So depending on who you talk to, which one's better, and I didn't really know that. So designers pick what city they're going to be in on certain times. So I know Versace was in Milan, I believe. And they said it was, I mean, some people said it wasn't that great, but
No?
I know that.
Use Flash.
What's that?
If I use Flash.
Yeah, sure. Use whatever. No, it doesn't.
Isn't
So,
that kind of nice? I like this vibe too.
yeah, I mean, isn't this golden hour? You know,
I guess.
Yeah.
When is golden hour? When the actual sun
The
goes?
hour
it's just
1 hour
before it's going
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
So it's
I guess this is it.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's
Yeah.
actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm liking this. Yeah.
yeah.
So you didn't go to Versace or no?
No, I didn't go to Milan. I actually had clients in LA for a thing called PMC, which is it's a music conference. Mostly vendors, not really many clients, but our sub-publishers from Copenhagen and London were there.
Okay.
So I always try to see them. They're our top producers overseas for our catalog. So in each market that is overseas, we have a partner that distributes our catalog over there.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering how you guys operated, like in terms of, do you like sync and catalog the music through other like sub-publishers like in other markets?
Yes,
and
in other
America,
markets.
you got your own.
Yeah, in America it's us, and then in every major market in the world we have somebody else.
Okay.
And some territories are better than others, you know. But Copenhagen's
Based on what? Tell me more about that.
You know, I don't know. I think the company and maybe the fit we are for their clients.
Yeah.
So our two best sub-publishers are Copenhagen in Denmark and London.
Yeah.
So those are our two best.
How do you pick usually like the people that you work with? You know what I mean? Like
It was referral. It was a referral thing. You know, I got into it
Yeah,
about.
but like you obviously like because like you know your company like is supposed to like the whole vibe is supposed to be like boutique and like very like client oriented, like the service and like it's supposed to like feel like a brand in a way. You know what I mean? Like how do you like build the you know like the vibe and the whole structure of it where like now you can kind of like pick and choose who to work with and all that type of thing. Like, how'd you build like the whole thing? You know what I mean? Well,
it was a slow grind.
Yeah.
I mean, two guys that were, you know, in bands, like we were both going to be rock stars. You know, he was actually a grade A musician, and I was like a C-level musician. I was keyboard player and a singer.
C-level? Why just get like a whole line?
Well, I'll tell you why, because I would see people that were gifted, right?
Okay.
And they were just gifted, and I could have practiced my whole life, and I would never be as good as they were.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, and so I just looked at it and went, okay, I wanted to be good enough, and then I wanted to put the emphasis on the show, the perception. And really what I do now is not that much different than a band. It's just a matter of, it's like, so in a band, people are like, well, where's Darren? He's tanning, you know, where's Darren? So I talked to my brother the other day on the phone. He's like, you haven't changed a bit. He's like, back in the band, you would be like $80 for these boots at Wild Pair, which was a cool place in Minnesota. $80. You were so excited. You spent your food money, and then you're like, you'd have to call, because, you know, we have the same parents, obviously. He's like, you'd have to call mom and dad and get $30 for food. And
you need the brother like that. You need the sibling like that. I have a sister like that too. She's like the fit one. She's like the one who's like strict with the regimen and the diet and the this and the that. And I'm more of like the extravagant one. You know what I mean? Like you usually need like some kind of, and like
balance.
in a band, I feel like it kind of, and like correct me if I'm wrong, but like in a band, in a project like you have now. In a music related project, you need some kind of that.
And that's what my business partner was. He really was. He's understated, one of the smartest guys I know, and one of the most talented guys I know. And early on, there was just two of us. So we started in my basement. And back to the question about how do you pick and choose.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a big loan. We didn't have a backer. We didn't have anything. as he would say, we built it brick by brick. We would just pay as we go. Oh, there's this great piece of equipment. Well, we would pay for it, So it was a slow build. We got out of my house pretty quickly because I had a daughter coming. So my wife basically said, you got to go. And I was so hurt.
Loud music, with an infant, is probably not the best idea.
No, but see, at the time I didn't understand that. She was like, you got to move out. I'm like, move out? Like, no, your business can't be in our basement. We have a child. And I'm like, oh, and it hurt me, but she was right. It was the best thing that could have ever happened.
Kicked you up a notch.
It did.
It
totally
stimulated
did.
To get to the next level, right?
Yep. It was like, now it's serious. So we had a lease, so we moved downtown, had to commute, and so it was brick by brick. And so how we picked initially, I was signing all the bands. So we looked at the landscape, and at first it was just bespoke for advertising. Okay. We would create everything. We would write it. We would have somebody. Yeah, you can move that anywhere. We would write it. We would produce it. We would mix it. Yeah. And it was two guys. So as we grew, we're like, we're not going to be the talent. If we're going to build a business, we can't both be the business and the writers.
It'll distract you from actually building the business.
Well, that's what was happening. It's like, so we'd get a job, we'd work on a job, we'd get done with a job, and then all of a sudden, there's no work because nobody was out.
Time to
nobody was out pumping it. So we pretty quickly decided it's like, okay, he's going to be a little more on the business and the finance. I'm going to be the client facing, and that's why I said it's no different than the band. Like, I go to, the event was called Cyclopay in Berlin. It's an advertising event. Top tier. So I go and I dress like this, and people say, what do you do? Like, are you a director? Are you? Yeah. I'm like, I'm a music guy. They're like, you're a music guy? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you must do okay. So that's the perception thing that I'm talking about. So if you're going to hire a realtor, right? A guy pulls up in an Escalade.
You're a realtor?
Are you a realtor? Okay, so
you can use this.
Well, this is an analogy I usually use. A guy pulls up in an Escalade, and a guy pulls up in a Corolla. I want to talk to the guy in the Escalade because I feel like he's successful, and he's the guy. And so the perception of me is going to be like, his clothes are ridiculously expensive. He's got to be doing well. So back to how we built it. We kind of made that decision that, okay, we're going to need to get specialists. We need an orchestral guy. We need a rock guy. We need a hip hop guy. We need a country guy. We need all these singers. Can't be us. So that's really how we started to grow. Let's get specialists. We'll hire them as freelancers. And, when we get a job. So then we did hire a couple young guys right out of college. They were composers. So that was kind of our first hire. Then we really had a kind of a come to Jesus moment in 2001. I think we were 5 people at the time. Maybe we were just 4 people. And
still small team.
You know what? I think that's before we hired. I think there were still 2 of us. So Brian came in one day and said, our credit line's used up. And at that time it was $50,000. He's like, our credit line's used up. I might have to take a job. And so I sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, if you take a job, we're definitely going to lose this business because if we don't stay focused now, it's gone. So, but it was literally like somebody pulled the plug out of the wall and there's just no work. So somebody was selling ad space in a local trade, and she came in and she's like, hey, can I see your press kit? We're like, what's that? Yeah. So she was the first one that we hired to try to teach us how to market. Right. She's like, what have you guys done? We're like, well, we work with Fox Sports. She's like, does everybody know that? I'm like, no. She's like, you need to tell everybody that. Well, we're working with ESPN on X Games. You got to tell people that. So she really started to teach me how to market. I knew how to network, but I didn't really know how to market in our business. So again, we grew really slow. And so when Brian said he's going to take a job, I went home just discouraged, and it's like, okay, got home. Kevin Garnett had signed a $110 million deal with the Timberwolves in 2001. Okay. And I looked at it and went, the economy's not that bad. Yeah. If they're signing
people are signing these kind of deals. Yeah.
Right. So I went back in the next day. I said, Brian, sports. We got to do sports. We got to do music for sports. People always saw us as the rock guys anyway. So it makes sense. Testosterone, right? Of course. So
everybody watches sports. It's kind of like it's like diagonal market-wise.
It's
anyone
impervious.
From women, men, any kind of targets you can hit with
Right.
that. So.
It's impervious to the economy.
Yep.
People need their sports and their beer, and they can be broke. It was like me with my weed and my clubs, no different. So I came in, I said, we got to do sports. So it's like a friend of a friend knew somebody at ESPN. It took me a year and a half of bugging this guy, marketing to this guy. And so he called one day and said, hey, we got this new thing called the X Games. So that tells you how old it was. He said, do you want to do 10 tracks? We're like, sure. He loved it. We did 10 more. And so we had a little bit of income. And in that summer, that took a year. So we had to get to that year. In that summer, we had one thing come in that was like an industrial video. It was like $10,000 for a whole lot of work, but it got us through. Yeah. So we each got a little bit of a paycheck and put some money on our account. Yeah.
Next brick.
So sports was a bit of a turning point. ESPN came in. Then in 2004, Kevin called me and said, hey, would you do a spec demo for SportsCenter? I'm like, yeah, biggest show. That is the most watched television show in the world.
Yeah. Regardless
of anything else. SportsCenter. It's in like 52 countries.
Yeah.
So he said, hey, we do a spec demo. We don't like the ba-da-da. It's all these horns and it's old, it's cheesy, but there's a lot of politics involved. People love that. They know that horn sound. It's iconic. So he said, would you do a rock demo? We need something good. So we did it. If the two of us, I think that was still just two of us. We did this demo. We sent it. They're like, we love it. We love it. Can we air it? We're like, oh gosh, no. So I said, of course. So he said, we're going to air it once at night, and you're going to watch the phones blow up. Where's our theme? Where's our theme? So they aired it. Nobody called. So they're like, they aired it again. And so they started airing it just at night.
Yeah.
And no phones blowing up. It went well. So after about a month, I get a call from the head of music at ESPN. He's like, Darren, can you do a sports package for SportsCenter?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's a sports package? He's like, so he said, I'll show you. So he sent me this list of deliverables, which was like this long. Yeah. And I'm like, rejoin, revamp, all these things that I had no fucking idea what it was. So I said, Claude, he's like, look.
You learn why you do it.
Well, he said, I'll teach you. I mean, the head of music at ESPN's going to teach me? I'm like, done deal.
That's nice.
So he said, well, also it's a 6-figure deal.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, please teach me. I need to soak in all the knowledge.
As I fell over and soiled myself, it's like, so, it was a lot of excitement. We got through it. And to this day, we've been doing, like every 4 or 5 years, they do a new version.
Yeah.
So they come back to us and go, what are we going to do? And I'm like, you obviously, like you guys, you say yes on the phone. Yeah. Then you get off the phone and go, what the hell are we going to do? They want to reinvent it again.
Yeah.
So that's where a conversation starts. But sports turned it for us. So, to this day, we work CBS Sports here in town, NBC Sports here in a lot of that's based in New York. Fox is based in LA, Fox Sports. But I do a lot of work in New York. So if you talk about turning points, so that's one. That was a big original music job. So then we did hire 2 people out of college. We hired like a person for admin and somebody to start doing some sales. So I think there were 6 of us. A friend of mine left Fox Sports. We bonded because she had a maniacal boss. I would call and say, is Christine in? So, and Allison would go, I don't think you want to talk to her. Or she would she would put me through to Christine. She'd say, Darren, I don't have fucking 30 seconds for you today. So it's like, so we bonded. So she called me one day and she said, I'm at MTV now. And I'm like, okay. She said, I need hip hop. I'm like, well, we're working with this guy at night. Before I could finish that, she's like, Darren, shut up. I need it in 5 minutes. Yeah. You need to be a publisher. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. She said, all right, I'm gonna mentor you. So I need sample-free hip-hop, and I need a ton of it because reality TV was just starting to launch. MTV moved from music television to reality TV. And she was the lead music supervisor. So she introduced me 6 of her. There were 7 people in Santa Monica, and we started doing sample-free hip-hop. So, like, again, white guy from Woodbury, I had to farm that out. So Minneapolis has a really cool hip-hop scene. South Minneapolis, guys making beats that sounded, any composer would tell you, oh, I can do hip-hop. not like the culture.
No.
Not like the culture.
No.
They were
And
bringing
they can
in
tell
shit
if it's fake or
Yeah.
if it's like trial.
Yeah,
You know
and it was
what
so fucking distorted. I'm like, what is this? They're like, dude, that's what we're doing. I'm like, is it because of the bad gear, or are you trying to do that? It's like some of both. You know, their gear was cheap, and they were trying to make the drums sound just trashy as hell.
Yeah.
And so, hip hop was that MTV relationship. The early one was a big change for us because we became a publisher.
Yeah.
We were no longer just a music house. We were a publisher. So I'll get to kind of three things that kind of set my arc for what you see sitting here today, and how I can go to France and how I can go. So in 2016, I kind of set a goal for myself. I want to work with ABC Promos. We weren't working with them. You had to be an approved vendor. So I believe we had the material, but we didn't have a deal. So meetings. At the end of the meeting, hey, thanks for lunch. Hey, I'm not the guy, So after probably 4 or 5 of those meetings, a friend of a friend, a guy that we'd worked with, said, hey, the guy you want to work with is this guy. So got a lunch with him through this guy. Counseled on me 3 times. He's a big lawyer at Disney. At the time it was ABC, but of course we know.
Sure.
Yeah, it all became Disney. So I was still in Minneapolis, flew to have lunch with him. I had just had shoulder surgery, and I was wearing a sling. And so he was sitting down, and he said, hey, sit down. And I said, I'm Darren. And he said, so you flew from Minnesota with the sling on to meet me? I said, yeah, I did. You're a hard guy to meet. He said, are those Montclair boots? That was his second question. So right away, we hit it off. He's way into fashion. He's a top, one of the top lawyers. So luckily, through all these changes at Disney, he's been there. So the story, in 2016, I met him. We started doing promos. It never really took off. So in 2018, I would try to visit him when I was in LA. I sat down in his office. He closed the door. He said, this is confidential. I said, okay. He said, I'm closing my internal music department called Fifth Floor, and I would like to know if you would take it over. And I'm like, I didn't even know it was on the table, but he said, there are 10 people behind you, but I'm going to ask you first, and if you would take this. And I was like, I said yes, without even calling Brian. I said yes. He said, you will take over my internal shows, the shows that are on ABC. So he basically said, here's my problem. This is my company, internal company. We don't have partners. We buy companies. We're Disney. We don't do partners.
Right.
But he said, this is my thing. He said, now it's yours. I know you. I know what you do. I've talked to a lot of people. You don't want to hear from me about that cup. He said, if you hear from me, it's bad. He said, you do your thing. You go out and you learn. You do what we're going to set up here. And I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it when the Queen dies. Because New York calls me at 3 a.m. Peter, we need music. It's like, he said, you're going to get that call now. I'm like, bring it.
There you go.
Bring the call.
All of that from a pair of Montclair, though.
Yeah.
See how that everything connects?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it was just, it's like what I say, that the fashion is just a door opener. Sure, we have to deliver, right?
No, of course, but like the attitude and like the charisma and like the persona that you like portray and convey,
the energy.
That means something to people. Like it's kind of like a sign of trust, where like people can like communicate well and like get like some kind of like a line of communication with you and like
right.
Usually the people like that deliver. You know what I mean? Like there are rare exceptions, but.
Well, like I said about the last event, it's like people just think you're successful.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's the realtor analogy that I was talking about. So that started in 2018, continues today, changed my life. A lot of responsibility, but, the company embraced it. We signed a long-term deal with them, and we've re-signed since then. So we manage the shows that are done. The news shows are done here in New York.
Yeah.
We do 2020, and we do Nightline. Those are both produced. They were up on 66, but they have a brand new building down I think it's just in part of the Village.
Gotcha.
So brand new building, brand new Disney building, super cool. So those are kind of the 3 things that I say have really been those turning points in your career. So now we're 13 people. What's that?
When did you start?
2018 was with Disney. So then it allowed us, now we're 14 people. There's 3 of us in LA. There's a person in Denver, and the rest are all in Minneapolis. So I spend probably, I moved to LA right after COVID, but I spent a lot of my time, New York, Chicago, Vegas. Just, I'm the face of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Well, I mean, I love the city I live in. I'm telling the people in Paris, I'm like, you know what, I'm sorry, I love Paris, but I live in the best city in the world, But I'd say New York and LA were, I couldn't see myself here, though. LA is just the weather, and, I lived in Minnesota most of my life, so...
Yeah. You got the winter vibe, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So from there, maybe that sparks, more, curiosity from you, but those are really the 3 turning points that in my career.
Yeah. Like, one question that I had was, starting off, like, each one of these was a turning point, and, like, this was, like, a long process, like 10
slow burn.
2 decades, right?
Yes, it was.
Almost. How are you seeing, like, the industry changing, and how are you reacting to it? You know what I mean? Because, like, the media is changing, the delivery, everything, like, the way of content is changing, like, short form content, like the whole TikTok and digital evolution. How do you stay up to date with everything, and how do you keep, like, positioning yourself in a way where, like, you can still be
relevant,
front line?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, with everything that's changing, like, around you.
It's tough. I stress out every day. But so the one big change when we got into the business, everything was being composed for advertising. You wrote it, they used it. So the change that we saw was licensing wasn't a thing. Bands and artists didn't want their music licensed. That was a sellout. You don't want to be in a commercial.
I talked to a songwriter just real quick. I interviewed a songwriter in LA like a couple of weeks ago. She said the exact same thing about, like, songwriters and like writers, musicians that, like, were, like, refusing to do licensing and syncing. Now they have to do it.
Yeah,
it's almost like
it's a 180.
Tour. It's exactly like you have to tour and you have to sync.
Yep.
And license your music. Otherwise, you're not going to make any money from, like, the actual, just like the share of the songwriters. Even,
streaming
like,
is nothing.
And even like songwriters that write for, like, Katy Perry don't even make that much money.
No, like a hit record now. So that was the big change. I think Moby changed it the most. He licensed every song on his record. Then it was after that, Madonna for Microsoft, the Beatles for Apple, and that was a controversy because who really owns it? Michael Jackson did that after he bought it, and fucking, that was like hellfire. And then when Zeppelin did Cadillac, it's like it's over. It's like, so we used to not compete with labels. Labels didn't want anything to do with advertising because their artists didn't. Now, my biggest competition is the whole music industry. I compete with a guy in his basement composing. I compete with Queen. It's like Queen used to never license anything. Well, get ready, because now they sold the whole thing to Sony. But it was building to this point.
I think Springsteen too.
Springsteen. The first one I think I heard of was Dylan. Bob Dylan did his for I think $150 million. But then Phil Collins, Motley Crue, now Pink Floyd just did their deal. Queen was that's the top of that building. $1 billion. That's the biggest one. So it's on. So back to how things are changing. Traditional TV is fading. Cable is even worse than traditional TV. The stuff that we do here in New York, the news stuff, because of the FCC license, there's always going to be an ABC, NBC, and CBS, because if everything goes to haywire, if the country's attacked for some crazy, you still need, the FCC has to have that bandwidth to communicate with the public.
Sure.
So cable is taking the biggest hit right now because people are, we'll just watch it whenever we want. The crazy thing is, I was at a party with some real movers and shakers in Vegas, 35-year-old, affluent crowd, women. They're like, we get wine on a Friday night, we watch 2020. I'm like, they're like, I was a hero because we composed for 2020. I'm like, oh, how hot is that? A murder show. Right. They're like, oh, it's hot. I'm like, what? It blew my mind. They're like, I'm like, why do you watch it? They're like, well, we think it's going to help protect us. We'll know who to look out for. Some serial killer or something.
I mean, that's got to feel good. I mean, like, but in a way, like you said, unexpected that you would
very unexpected.
Yeah, like, does it kind of like, does it boost your ego? Like, does it, like, how does it, like, how do you react to that type of stuff? Because you wouldn't think that, like, oh, like, I'm the, or like, oh, I'm like the guy behind the scenes that, like, makes the music for that.
Dark
but, like,
underscore.
People are like, you know what I mean? Because I feel like maybe that relates to reality TV as well, because people are, like, so, you know, like, into like the full like reality side of things, that like they love the guy that produces the stuff,
or like The Bachelor,
like the actual front, or the front line.
But reality TV is suffering right now. It's like that's one that's really taken a dive. You know, that in the industry in Los Angeles. I just read a thing today. It's like we used to have 30% of the market in LA, and I think we've dropped to 21%. It's like Atlanta's going hard. Vegas is going hard. New York's always going hard, but a lot of it's going overseas too. It's just cheaper. It's non-union. It's like you can fly over to the Czech Republic, do a show for a fraction of what you can do even in Atlanta.
And they're encouraging it with like tax breaks and stuff like that that's everywhere too.
California got behind. They were too cocky.
Yeah.
So I can't remember exactly. Oh, so how do we keep pace with what's
How do you like keep yourself like like inspired and like up with the mark, and like how do you like react to things that happen? You know what I mean? And like and still keep the your sanity, but also like your people's, like your crew, like inspired, sane, stimulated, like all that.
I think I mean the first thing is I think we all know how lucky we are every day to be doing what we're doing, and that we even, I mean, there's times I'll get on LinkedIn and look up music companies. It just scares me to death. It's like I know how fortunate I am, and that every day I'm not a goal-oriented guy, but the people at the company will tell you my main goal has always been since day one to keep the front door unlocked. I don't have these crazy, okay, this is this year, this is next year, it's the front door open. So how it's changed, it's like now I know that we have to do cheaper licenses for social media. We're going to have to be very flexible. But the good news about a small company, as opposed to a corporation, I can answer. If you guys said right now, it's like, hey, we have the social media thing, we've got $1,000, it's like, yep, we can do that. I don't have to wait for people to answer and get permission, on what to do. So that's really, to me, I tell people we're flexible. Like the best client is, like a lot of people have a shell game. It's like, well, what's the budget on this? Well, what are you going to charge? They want to know if I'm going to give them a lower price before they tell me what their budget is. So what I tell, if you're a producer, we're sitting here, you're like, hey, I've got some social media stuff. Look, I want a relationship with you. You're going to say, hey, I'm tight on this one. I need some help, And hey, here's a pretty good one. Yeah. Let's work on both of those. And so that's really the relationship that I want to build. Yeah. It's like, let's be together for the thick and the thin.
Right.
So
and people will appreciate that too, because they see you as like this big shot guy that like has all these big deals with like this and that, but they still make time and effort to accommodate like a smaller player, like so
whoever that is.
It shows like integrity as well, and
so,
like a passion for it.
Yeah, so I think the answer, the short answer is like it's every day. It's every day. I told my business partner last night. I was like, man, this show was a little depressing. The big spots and big companies with really incredible stuff, and it's like it should inspire me. But at the same time, last night it bummed me out. It's like, we're not in that mix right now, So there is a tier that you're always gunning for, right? And I'm sure that's the same in what you're doing. It's like, man, we want to get to that next, but it's, how do you do the work if you haven't done the work?
Right.
Because people can say, well, what have you done? Well, we want to do that. There's the spot that won so much last night was called Phlox by Apple. It's the one with it's the security cameras that are looking at all that music score is, dude. It's like, it's so good. Whoever thought of the winds like, a lot of music companies would look at that and go, we can do that, but sure you could, but they had the idea to do that. They thought of that. It's easy to go, here's a Drake song. We can do that. Sure you can. But they had the idea, or Kendrick.
Yeah.
It's like they had the idea. Sure, we can all copy that, But that flocks thing is like, somebody had that fucking idea. And that's last night. I'm like, are we the company that can do that? Because if we're not, we might as well start thinking about how we're getting out. Because people are having incredible ideas for incredible media. And at that level, there's not that many at that level. I mean, 95% of the music companies were not mentioned in that show last night. Music companies that I respect, they weren't even mentioned. So I felt bad, and then I'm like, there were other music companies there. They didn't even get nominated. I didn't get nominated. We entered one thing, and once I started seeing the work, I'm like, we're not winning jack shit, man. Because the work was so good. Yeah. And it should inspire me, but it always depresses me first. And then I grit my teeth and figure out how to do it.
I feel like that's kind of like the way inspiration works, right?
It is,
I feel like you kind of have to like be like, oh,
get hurt.
Somebody's like better than me. Yeah. Let me get to that level.
Yeah, you got to get butt hurt first.
You need to like get the slap first.
Yeah.
But like, let's connect. I don't want to miss the live. We're like doing amazing though.
Yeah.
Like, we got like a lot of great shit.
Yeah.
No, but I want to touch on like the fashion side of things, like style and all that.
Yep.
How do you define that? You know what I mean? Like style and like the way you portray style. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like everybody's got like a different answer.
Sure,
like
sure.
What is it, to you to be stylish and to have like some kind of like stylish presence? You know?
Right. Well, I think it's very individualized, like you said. So for me, and these guys know, it's like, and Valmont knows, that the rule for me is if you can't notice me across the room, it doesn't work. If it's a watch, that doesn't work for me. Because if you can't see me across the room, you're not going to come up to me and go, what do you do?
Right.
Or at least, maybe not across the room, but from 15 feet. Sure. A watch doesn't do that. Shoes, kind of. I started with shoes. Shoes was kind of my first thing. It's like they were banging, and that's kind of how I got the
Is that
the
your
bug.
weapon of choice?
It
Shoes?
was. It was. Now it's the whole. It's got to be the whole thing. Yeah, it's got to be. How can you put together something that in a room last night, with all those A-list people, they're going to go, what does this guy do? So to answer style, to me, it's individualized. My business partner, it's not going to work for him because it's got to be something that is an extension of you. Yeah. And for me, like in the band, I was the guy with the spandex and the platforms and the tan and the hair and, like very little on, I was built at the time, at least I thought I was,
See, that's important though. Like I was gonna ask, like the attitude. Like, is it important? Like how do you when you wear something? Doesn't matter. Like if you you kind of have to like have the idea that like people are not gonna, whatever people think about what you wear doesn't matter to you. It's not gonna it's not gonna like change your perspective of yourself. Correct? Like how do you know what I mean? Like you have to what's the attitude when you like pick
that's
an
what it
outfit,
is. That is what the outfit is, or what the attitude is. Like, okay, this is gonna be me being a fucking baller, and my business partner hates that term. He was telling somebody, he's like, who says that? Is he in high school? I was like, actually, we should.
We'll kill that. We'll make a note.
but no, baller is a word I use, and people laugh because they're like, or I call him a rocker, and people just don't do that. They don't do that. Like a guy last night, he's a producer he's from Warsaw, and so I said, "What's up, rocker?" He's like, "Rocker." He just kind of chuckled to himself, So a lot of it's just an embellishment of yourself. Yeah. And I want to be the guy that. And there was a girl that gave a panel that she's such a rock star. She was like so explicit and so like, like if I was that way, I'd get thrown out of a room. And it's like, it's cool that women can do that now. She's talking about her sex life and all this stuff. And I'm like, she is a baller. So I want to be the guy that's like right on that edge. I'm going to say something that's a little bit like, damn, that's a little bit, it could be kind of like a comedian. That could be a little bit offensive.
But you want people to be like, he can pull it off.
Right.
Know what I mean? Like, he can pull it off. He works if he does it.
Yeah, right. And people tell me that about my clothes all the time. Like my clients are like, man, I can't do that. I'm like, yes, you could if you wanted to. Right now, you just don't feel like you want to, and it's a slow progression. Yeah, you can't do this right away, but you can over time. I mean, these glasses, people would be like, no way. It's like so. And then the other key is like with the glasses, like you were talking about how I see it. It's like the glasses. I use a person in New York. I use her for everything. She does all my glasses because these are the darkest I would ever wear. If you can't see my eyes, you can't trust me. And so, and that's kind of the thing about trust, as long as we're talking about that, is like, this is a door opener to start building trust. You can't go up to somebody and go, trust me. They're going to be like, Jesus Christ.
Don't know you. Probably won't trust you because you said
exactly,
that.
because you said that. It's like, oh, yeah, it's like, I would never cheat on my wife.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
He's probably cheating
by
on
the
his
way,
wife.
like, I never cheated on my wife. That means that you did it. You know,
exactly.
Like, even if you didn't do it, like, people think that you did.
Totally. So it's just a door opener to have that conversation and to get an opportunity. What we say, I was talking to Janelle, my head of sales for advertising. We work really hard to get a chance to work. So we're trying to build this client relationship for a year. Then we get this opportunity, kind of like ESPN. Then we have to work. So we did all that work so we can work.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, it's an embellishment. It's got to be you. If it's not genuinely you, people, what do they make the decision? Isn't it 4 seconds? Mm-hmm. It's like, like when I met you, we had 4 seconds to decide what we thought about each other. And our mind's telling us already. It's like, oh, he's cool, she's cool. When I met you, it's like, you were outgoing, we started talking. I'm like, all right, this guy's fucking cool.
Nice.
4 seconds.
Likewise, yeah.
4 seconds. Yeah.
No. I agree with that, and likewise for me as well. But I feel like it's very rare that I can find somebody. Because I'm kind of the same too. I was born a musician. I'm doing media now. Like, I love style and all that, but like, I don't know how to actually make clothes. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have the knowledge, but it doesn't matter.
Me neither.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, it's all about the attitude and all that, right? So, what have you learned from fashion? Like, you've had all these connections with like main designers, and like, you go to shows and all that type of thing. Like, is there anything that you've learned from that world, that industry, that you're like transporting to your industry? You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like your life, your industry, your persona, your character. Like, what are some like lessons that you've learned from like the fashion world, since you're like been so close to it now?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. In Paris, Balmain has a new CEO, and he came from Givenchy, and I met him at they had a big dinner. It was called the VIC, which very important client.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, is that client or customer? But so
slight difference, and then a lot of people will pick on.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I see.
Important.
Yeah.
Important.
So big dinner, and so I'm the kind of guy, like, I've got enough. I've been doing this long enough. I'm like, I want to get a picture with the CEO, and they're like, oh, he's pretty new. It's like, I'm like, I'm just gonna go ask him. So I said, hey, can we get a picture? It's like, sure.
Worst can say is no.
Right. So we did pictures, and then he brought his husband over, and everybody's just starting to talk, and it was Darren's the icebreaker, So we got a picture, and I did the same with the DJ. The DJ was up on the second floor, right? She was super cool looking. She had a $100,000 dress on, $100,000. So I'm like, hey, is there my client guy that brought me? I said, hey, is there any way I can get up there and get a picture up there with her? He's like, man, then everybody's going to want to do that. It's up on the second floor. He said, let me ask Brett. Brett's the head of North America. So Brett came over. He's like, Darren, I'll do it for you. It's got to be really quick. We got to go up, like, it's a catwalk to get up there.
Sure.
So we did it. We got a picture. And so those are the kind of things that it's like, you got to be bold. I mean, ask for what you want. Worst they can say is no. Yeah. That can't happen. So about the CEO, I went to one of the stores the next day, and he was there. And he's like, hey, you want to have an espresso? So I'm sitting down with the new CEO, just me. We're sitting there having an espresso with a guy that, I mean, fucking hey, this guy's important. So that's what we talked about. We talked about the treatment of clients, client loyalty, and I said, look, you guys rolled out the red carpet. That cost. We all had drivers. Like, each person had a driver. They didn't say, oh, we're going to this hotel and picking up 2 people. And I had a driver.
You scooped up each one of you
in Paris. And if I wanted him any other time that day, I'll stop. I don't know if I'm good talking
we'll send you selects before anything goes out. By the way.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know when I'm.
I feel like this is a good moment to interrupt. I listened to your whole interview, so now I need to know who you are.
I own a company called In the Groove Music. It's a licensing and publishing company.
Cool.
Yeah.
You had a lot of little wisdom, little nuggets that I
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So come in. We'll charge for that at a later point.
We're leaving, so
right. We're running. Yeah. Good luck, right?
That's the whole point of the conversation.
Yeah. So we sat, and I was just like, I was impressed with the fact he took time with me, and we got to talk about client loyalty. How do you perceive our brand? How do you feel about your treatment here in Paris? How do you, just those questions. And for me, it's the same thing. It's like I left there going, we got to step it up, for our clients. Yeah. Now they're in a different world. You're spending $8,000 for a jacket, $5,000 for a sport coat, but it is about making sure that they understand that you're grateful. And so 2 things that I started a long time ago. I'm known for the Starbucks coffee cards, and like to the point where other people can't do it. They're like, fuck, that's Darren's thing. So every time I would come to a meeting, and in Japan, when you're greeted, somebody you don't know, you bring a gift and you give a gift. And I didn't know that at the time. Of course I didn't. It's like I'm from South Dakota, So I would bring a coffee card with a sticker of our company in the groove music. And I'd say, hey, here's a coffee card. That's how we would start a meeting. It's just a great way to get it rolling, right? So that was one thing that I started doing a long time ago, in that, it's like just to the point where, other music companies have said, well, we can't do that, because then they think of you. No matter what we do, they think of you.
Mission accomplished.
Right, exactly. So
like,
it's just, it's just that giving back and just really taking the time. A lot of people aren't thanked for the work. So when I usually send a gift after a job. It's like, hey, Nordstrom gift card or something cool, something. I couldn't get to the point where like some companies give away like an iPad. So we're not at that level.
Right.
But I did a thing for all the music supervisors. I got a deal with Bose headphones. They gave me like a 30% discount, and I bought like 100 pairs of them. Gave them to all the music supervisors in LA. So just gifting it goes with my philosophy. So it's surprise and delight. So I want to surprise and delight you. And it's like surprised that he gave me a gift card. Surprised that he followed up. And delighted because I did that. It's like, so surprise and delight is something I read it somewhere, but it's just one of those things that just reaffirmed what I've believed in such a long time. Yeah. Surprise and delight. So how does fashion? Yes, I've learned things from fashion. Philip Plein took me to Milan for a show because they were $40,000 exotic coats. I didn't buy one. The cheapest one was $12,000. That was Python. But they wanted me to get the crocodile. Crocodile starts at $50,000. So it's like, whether exotic animals, everybody's got different opinions, but I don't have any. But I do have some Python. But so that's what I've learned, and I've always said that fashion and music has always been a parallel. Look at like Andy Warhol and the visionaries.
Funny you mentioned, because I was going to ask you to answer me this too. What like factor into your answer, if you will. Who were and are some of your icons too, like your inspirations for style and for that type of thing. Like just work it through your like Andy Warhol, like you said.
Well,
fashion, they all like go together.
Yeah.
What were some of the people that like inspire you to this day?
Yeah, I would say. It started with David Lee Roth in Van Halen. That's who I wanted to be.
Dave, yes.
I wanted to be Diamond Dave,
yes.
And the problem was there was a Diamond Dave, but the more weed I smoked and did drugs and stuff. Mostly cocaine.
Right.
I thought I was David Lee. In a small town in Minnesota, on a Saturday night, I was David Lee Roth. And all the perks that come with that. I had no money, but I had all the perks that, So after that, I think, I see a guy like, I can't think of his name right now. We did Maserati spots with him. I can't think of his name. He was a soccer player.
Right.
David Beckham.
David Beckham.
Yeah, like a guy like Beckham. Yeah. It's like I'm a straight guy. He is
still. You can still acknowledge that a guy is good looking.
Oh, I can.
And he's got style for sure. He's
beautiful dude.
Like the British, like a British icon for sure.
Yep. Yeah. So a guy like that. When I see a guy like, even the Clooneys and the Ryan Reynolds, when they dress up, it's like pretty good. But the women have more of a license to do that.
Sure.
So the other thing I tell people is like, I'm the gayest straight guy you're going to meet because the women, they ball out. The guys, it's like a Met Gala are in a black suit. It's like, come on. Yeah. And Tyla's in a sand dress. That's where my guy, Olivier, he lapped everybody. It's like Louis Vuitton was looking at him like, okay, we either need to hire him or kill him, one of the two, because that sand dress, and then the glass dress he did for the other actress. So Olivier looped everybody at that. So, he's another for me, but he shows up in all black because he wants the emphasis to be on his clients. So that's crazy. He comes out and he's in all black, and that's it. So it's like, it's crazy, but he's still, the way he looks. I always say if Beyonce and Lenny Kravitz had a baby, it's Olivier, man. He's a beautiful man. So yeah, for me, that's acknowledging that and not, I'm not afraid of that. It's like, I'm from South Dakota, and I think, my clients, I've got a lot of gay clients. They love me. I've got a lot of female clients. They love me. And at the show, the guy clients, I call them rockers. And so it's like I've learned to kind of like chameleonize a little bit to appeal to everybody. Yeah. So I can walk in a room, my hip hoppers, and the other thing is going to Atlanta. And the black culture is really, they call me the flyest white guy in Atlanta. Well, they want me to change my name on Instagram. I know. But Ray Daniels is a record guy. And so I go to his office. There's no other white guys in that camp. I'm the only white guy. And he calls me the flyest white guy. And I'm like, I feel so like humbled and honored, and like that they embraced me, and it was the fashion that did it. So here's my theory. In Minnesota, if I dress like this, I'm gay. Even sometimes in LA, it's like guys just don't do that. In Atlanta, they're like, white people don't dress like you, man. It's like, so they've completely superseded the gay. They're just like, this guy's fucking cool. He's a white guy that dresses like a black guy. And I don't want to ever stereotype, but black people know fashion, and they recognize it. And anytime, if I walk through this, the black guys are going to be like, what's up? Yeah. It's just like right away. Yeah. So right away, it's like, I think they know that I've never been prejudiced. I'm open to, like, right. I was in a band in the Midwest, and the light man was gay. Nobody was, and if they were, nobody told that. Right. I was 18. I was living with a guy that was gay, and it was like, he was my best friend. Yeah. It was fucking awesome, Yeah, sure. One night it's like, hey, Darren. I'm like, no thanks, man. I'm like, I'm cool with it, but no, just not me.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like to close the circle, last question would relate to what we just talked about, like the whole like attitude, the style, like not caring about what people think and all that jazz. You being obsessed with Duncan, and like us trying to like portray the profile of like a high-end guy that's done like all the success and like all the style and all that with high-end clothes, but like that still enjoys Duncan. And, like,
I had one today.
Worships, So,
I had one today at the airport.
What sparked like your passion for Duncan? What's it like? Does it like take you back to childhood, or like does it like bring you to like certain memories? I don't know, like if there's like anything. Like how do you stay like non-pretentious? Because like it's when somebody like wear like anybody, I've walked around in LA and like see people with like just a shirt that says Balenciaga, just like that,
right?
Just so that they can show that they can spend $300 on a T-shirt,
right?
Which is pretentious, right?
Right.
How do you stay non?
Yeah, it's pretty low for a T-shirt.
Well,
right.
All I'm saying, like they're trying, people like people that don't have like a lot of style, they try to like pretend and like try to be pretentious because they just want to show that they have like the designer's friends and all that. How do you stay not pretentious and like still like influential and stylish and like like charismatic?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think like I said, I'm from South Dakota. My roots are in the Midwest. I'm still that wide-eyed South Dakota kid, and that's what a lot of the clients see. They see that I can go to Dunkin' or I can go to McDonald's and not be like, oh, I can't eat any of that. It's like I'm devouring it. I went to like a Jack in the Box in LA. I'd never been there. Oh, like I had this white suit on, so I'm like, I was so hungry. It was an event. I ate, and I literally had to take it to the good cleaners in LA because I got this like the grease and the ketchup. Yeah.
She was just saying like we should get him like eating like something really messy.
Yeah.
Like in a picture.
Yeah, it would. But I went to Dunkin' today, and I don't think it spurs anything in my history. It's just like it was there one time, and I tried it, and I'm like, God, it's great. You know, I mean, it's sugary, it's coffee. And my daughter is just like, she's like, what's the best word? She is concerned. She's like, you're the bougiest guy that I know. This is my daughter. You're the bougiest guy I know. You drink Dunkin'. That's like Folgers, you know, Folgers coffee. I'm like, it's good. So she finally tried it. And she's like, I'm not sure I get it, but it's good, you know. So my son's comment was, Alex is my daughter, you don't know what Folgers is. You're a Starbucks person, you know. So it was a good circle. But I think it's just, I think one thing to understand about me is luxury is, or fashion and the clothes is my luxury. My house in Minnesota, modest. My apartment in LA, very modest. I drive a modest car. I don't have like a big house and a boat and all those other things that a lot of people that I hang with do. But I've got a theory, and a girl in town loves it. It's like, people don't see where I live. They don't see what I drive. They just see this. And so they assume all that. And I think that's the way I'm not pretentious, because I know this, and I know it's a window. It's like I've tried to expand that window over the last 10 years, but I still know it's a window, and it could be gone as fast as it came. So I came from nothing. If I end up back with nothing, I told my kids, I'm like, when I die, there's not going to be money. There's going to be a bill. There's going to be a bill. So bury me in this shit, because my son won't wear any of this stuff. He's like, no way, Dad. He's 26 now. Like,
Give him time.
Yeah.
Give him time.
Maybe. I don't know. Some people just never,
Yeah,
you know.
no, it's true.
So I told the kids, like, no money. There's going to be a bill.
Maybe your daughter will.
Yeah, she kind of likes Christian Louboutin. She likes a little flair. My son, he likes Prada, but the black, and anything, yeah. So I think that's the way to remain humble and know that I'm fortunate to be here. This is my luxury, and I just chose to make it the one that I'm gonna be seen in, and like I said, fucking buried in, you know. Yeah.
I think that closes it. That was great.
Awesome, man. It's really fun to talk.